Peace, everybody. It is Monica Simpson of SisterSong, and we are kicking off the Road to Essence here in Charlotte, North Carolina. They are our first city on a 5-city tour. We are so excited to get started here in the Queen City. And tonight we are going to have Sunshine Anderson, a Charlotte native, and Carl Thomas bringing the house down. Of course, we got the community partners. We're talking about building power at the intersections and doing big things. All roads lead to Essence, where Black joy and liberation meet. And we're starting it here in Charlotte. Y'all get ready. But we're going to go ahead and get this panel started, y'all, because we have powerful leaders that we want to be in conversation with today, and we want you to know, and for some of you to be introduced to, but for some of you just to continue to be in community with. So if we can go ahead and get our panelists to make their way to the stage. Y'all, please give a round of applause for them as they make their way. Please, please, please. We have Bishop Tanya Rawls coming to the stage, Neah'Marie Hubbard, Nakia Lee. Who else we got over there? Oh, we got Dr. Reia Chapman. I'm just going to claim it in the name of Jesus. And we got Aaliyah coming on here, y'all. We got all these amazing folks. Y'all keep that round of applause going. Yes. Everyone got their microphone? Everybody microphone on. Make the mic hot. I'm hearing them. Okay. Can everyone do a slight little test for us just to make sure we hear your voice?
Testing.
Check.
Testing. My mic sound.
Check. I like that. All right, good folks. We are so excited to be in conversation today with these amazing individuals. And I want to properly introduce them and the organizations and businesses that they represent in Charlotte. Right beside me, we have Aaliyah Huck, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the Academy for Advancing Excellence and representing the Global Black Economic Forum today. Please give this amazing individual a round of applause. The Global Black Economic Forum is also SisterSong's partner in pushing forward with this road to Essence, so we're super excited for them and grateful for them and really excited to be in conversation. Reia Chapman, sitting beside this amazing individual, is the founder of the Center for Family and Maternal Wellness. Y'all, if you talk about doing mental health work in this city, this sister right here has been doing it for a very long time and really powerfully, and I'm grateful to know her and the work that she does. So y'all, please put your hands together for Reia Chapman. Beside her, I got my brother. Let me tell you something. We've been running these streets. We used to run the streets a long time ago, too. These artistic streets. We'll keep it there, okay? These artistic streets. But I'm really excited to bring Nakia Lee to this panel as well, doing work with KUUMBA, continuing to really build powerful bridges of art and culture in this city. And so grateful that you're bringing your expertise to this panel. Thank you so much, Nakia Lee. Then beside him, we have Neah'Marie Hubbard, who is our North Carolina coordinator at SisterSong. So y'all please give her a round of applause. And then lastly, because, I got to put everybody's name up here right, we have Bishop Tanya Rawls. Talk about somebody who I've definitely been in community with for a very long time, has been a spiritual leader and guide to me, has, helped to raise up this young, crazy organizer I was back in the day and helped to mold me into a powerful leader as well. But we have Bishop Tanya Rawls, who is the founder and executive director of the Freedom Center for Social Justice and the chancellor of Black Mountain School of Theology and Community. Y'all give it up for Bishop Tanya Rawls. Well, so this intersection, this conversation that we're talking about today, y'all, is about building power at the intersections. And for those who may not understand the word intersectionality, because it's a newer word that is getting thrown into the lexicon of things that we talk about, on the social media and on the different things. If you want to know more about what intersectionality in its like most fullest explanation is, and you can look to people like Kimberly Crenshaw if you do not know her. You can also think about powerful word authors like Audre Lorde, who said that we can't have single issue movements because we don't live single issue lives. It's a very easy way to be able to understand what intersectionality is. Basically, it's saying that none of us is singular, right? That all of us have a multitude of identities. We have a multitude of things that come together at all times in our lives, right? That really gives us the ability to either live more freely or to interrupt that and to bring challenges to our lives. And so when we think about intersectionality in this sense, and we think about this panel that we pulled together, these are folks who are working at very particular intersections of our lives, right? And they're doing that with their work, they're doing that with their activism, they're doing that with their businesses, and we're going to talk about how all that fits today. So to frame this conversation out, I want to get each of you just to talk a little bit about, like, what does it mean for you when you think about your entry point to this conversation with the work that you bring and the power of intersectionality? Why is it important for us to build power at our intersections in this moment, in particular with where we are politically and socially? Would you like to start, Aaliyah?
Sure, I'll
Thank you.
start. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
It's such a powerful conversation to have because we're at a time where, like you said, there are no singular issues. And if we can talk about things more interconnectedly, we can actually solve issues more intentionally. The work that we do, as you mentioned, I'm part of the Global Black Economic Forum, and we work within 4 pillars: the future of work, wealth, health, and democracy. And if you think about those 4 pillars, all of your lives are touched by each of them. If we're connected to that reality or not, your lives truly are. Yeah. So it's important that we look at this holistically so that we can really solve it in a way, solve these challenges in a way, so that we can be much more efficient, more intentional, et cetera.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Reia, your work, of course, is around maternal mental health specifically, but you have a broad training and all the things that you do around mental health specifically. Why is that intersection important in this moment as we're thinking about where we are politically?
Absolutely. Thank you so much again for having me. So my work centers around maternal mental health, caregiving, stress, the way that identity is shaped by the social conditions that we exist with. And so I think anytime we're talking about autonomy and we're talking about intersectionality, we have to have multiple conversations. You know, to me, that brings in economics, it brings in health disparities, it brings in community access and supports, politics. There's everything that touches the way that we function in this world. And so I think that in order to be emotionally and mentally well, then we have to be taking care of the whole human being.
That's right. I love that. I love that because I don't think that I think that people understand how important that is, but when we think about like the pathways to get there, I know you're going to take us a little bit deeper into that in just a few minutes, so I'm grateful that you started us right there. Jermaine, when we think about culture, right, and art, and when I think about folks like Toni Morrison who told us like, this is the time that the artists go to work, right? Apparently, we've been told by our elders that culture and art play a critical role. But for you, when we think about the power of intersectionality and being intentional about strategically weaving that into this ecosystem of our lives that we're dealing with every day, why is this intersection so important for you, and why is that what you're so dedicated to in this moment?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. I consider the work I do artist activism. And that's important to me. I don't think every artist has to be an activist, but that's just naturally the work that I do. I wrote a show called A Walk in My Shoes, and that show was a show that I created really as a tribute to the young people that I served. I used to manage a sexual health clinic that primarily served sex workers, young sex workers, and people who, had a good night, maybe, or were a little risky that night, and got an STD or an STI, or people living with HIV. And a lot of times, most of those I served were young kids who were still teens or very, very, very young adults grappling with that. And there are intersections there. So there are intersections around homelessness, there are intersections around mental health. And so I've always seen the art and I've always seen culture as a common denominator, where someone might not be able to hear us, maybe even in these settings or even one-on-one, but if they hear a song or they hear a Tamika's poem, or come to one of my plays, or hear one of my songs, it might touch that nerve. It might hit. I know all of us have experienced that, where the art shifted us in some way. And so that's why I'm really excited about the work. And as our ancestors have said, now is the time for the creatives. Where are my creatives at? Creatives, stand to your feet right now. I just want you to know you're on the front line. Everybody who has a creative gift, and that's everybody in the creative class, not just visual artists and performing artists. I mean designers and stylists and graphic designers, architects, everybody that's a part of the creative class. You are the front line in this war, this culture war that we're in, the war to save our country.
Yeah.
You are the front line. And we're in a Bible Belt, right?
We are.
So I know a lot of y'all, if you don't go to church, you've been churched. And so you know about the Levites in the Bible, right? And so when the Israelites went out to war, who was on the front line?
Say it.
It was the musicians.
That's
It was the minstrels. It was the praise leaders. It was the choir directors. It was the praise, you feel me?
That's right.
It was the sopranos, the altos, the tenors, and the bass. It was you historically, and it is you now. Do you take the charge?
Ashe, yes.
Ashe.
Now, wait a minute. Now, I didn't know I was going to get done up on the panel, but I did, and I'll take it. I receive it. And that's powerful. It is absolutely that time. And, you know, for those of you who you may not have stood up, right? And that's okay if you don't see yourself as a creative. But everyone has the ability to create something, right? And so this is also your time in that particular way, too. So think about what you're creating and the intentionality behind that, too. But I love this charge to artists. I receive. Neah'Marie, you are a powerful organizer, and we're grateful that you are using those organizing skills here at SisterSong to do this sexual and reproductive justice work. And, you know, for those who may not be hip to what reproductive justice is and why we as a reproductive justice organization is partnering with the Global Black Economic Forum to do this run called The Road to Essence. Reproductive justice is a movement that was started by Black women in 1994. They did that work because they understood that we needed a more holistic way to talk about our lives and our future. And so SisterSong defines a reproductive justice as the human right to be able to have the children that we want in the ways that we want, to be able to prevent or end pregnancies with dignity and without shame, to be able to parent the children that we have in healthy and safe environments. And ultimately, this is a human rights, Black feminist rooted movement that is about our human right to bodily autonomy. That means that we have the right to be able to determine our own futures. Y'all feel what I'm saying? Yeah. That means that we get to be able to make our own decisions about our bodies and our families and how we want to live in this world. That work is all encompassing of every single social justice movement that you could ever think of. And we think about the power of bringing that together with economic freedom. That makes us an unstoppable force as Black people, right? And so that's why we are partnered in this particular way and why we have made a commitment with Essence to ensure that not only are we using Essence as our ground zero for Black joy, but we're also using it as our ground zero for Black liberation work. Y'all feel me? So you are organizing in that, Neah'Marie, beautifully. So I know that you convened some people earlier today on your folk tour, so I want you to at least tell people about that too. But when we think about why organizing at the intersections is important right now, why do you feel as an organizer on the ground every single day in community, how are you bridging those gaps and building more power at the intersections in your work?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Monica. I'm gonna take 5 seconds to say, when I first saw Monica, I saw myself, and I had never seen someone who looked like me so proudly and loudly centering Black women, centering queer Black people. I'm getting chills right now, and it's just so powerful. So I just want to thank you for everything you said. And so it's very important that we work in these intersections because reproductive justice and the type of Black village mentality that we truly come from is meeting people where they are. That's right. And sometimes that shows up in different ways. Sometimes that does show up in really centering Black maternal health. Sometimes that does show up in centering environmental justice, as a lot of our people in North Carolina live in these rural areas that are now about to be affected by data centers, and that's going to affect their water quality, that's going to affect their bills, so that's where we get into economics and all of those things. So reproductive justice truly expands and is rooted throughout this country and throughout the intersections where we all exist. So in terms of culture, at the end of the day, especially if you're in this room, we love us, you know? And we need to get back to maybe literally, maybe not literally, but asking our neighbor for sugar, even if you have it in the house, just to say hi, because you probably have only seen the side of their face, you know? And so going back to that sense of community and knowing each other, knowing when you see someone's kid and things of that sort, just really having that connection with each other. And growing up in Charlotte, I went to Briarwood, I went to MLK, Philippo Berry, Mallard Creek. So through and through, my community raised me. My neighbors, Black women, teachers, all types of educators truly just impacted me. And culturally speaking, they made sure that I saw myself in those spaces. That is very, very important as well. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Neah'Marie. That's why we're so glad you're with us. We are. And we will get back to that folk tour because we'll tell people about that at the end too. But I want to bring in Bishop Rawls because the intersection that I met you in as a wild youngin' was about spirituality and faith and what does it mean for us to have access to that as Black people, as Black queer people, as Black gender nonconforming people, as Black people on all types of spectrums and ways that we live. And now more than ever, we are seeing this white Christian nationalist regime really try to take hold, not try, they're taking hold, right, of the moral kind of grounding and narrative in this moment that is unfortunately seeping into our communities, right, and wreaking havoc in some really detrimental ways. So can you help frame for us the importance of centering faith in particular and spirituality as an intersection that we must consider as we're thinking about how do we build out this blueprint for Black liberation that gets us all free?
Well, first of all, I'm so proud of you. What you all would need to know is I met her as a freshman. I think she was a freshman at Johnson C. Smith and was sorting out a lot of things. And at the time, she was a classical music person and didn't want to sing gospel because she said, I can't mess up my throat. I said, girl, if you don't get up there and sing this song. And she's been singing and doing amazing work ever since. I thank God for her. I've been doing a lot of thinking about this season. You know, as an elder at this age and stage, I'll be, 70 soon. I'm mindful of the change in era. We're in a different era, right? So if we're talking about faith, it was, we had the Old Testament, and then we shifted to the New Testament. And so if I'm trying to live my Jesus life the way that people were living the Moses life, I'm going to be leaving a lot on the table, right? I can live, but I'm going to leave a lot on the table. And as, former Church of God in Christ and Baptist girl, I understand that very well. What I will say, and this may hit people differently, I believe that we're heading into an era of the feminine. And it's important to understand what I'm saying when I say that. I'm saying that in a much less gendered way than people might hear it on their ear. I'm saying that in terms of the ways that feminine manifestations of God are called for now, I believe, more so than others. And there are those who would consider that blasphemous, but I'm like, well, if it was, one of God's names would not have been El Shaddai, the multi-breasted God. That's a lot of titties floating around, okay? And it was necessary. He said breast. No, I'm saying titties in this room because we're talking about reproductive justice and we can't be afraid to talk about titties. But I'm saying that to say that when we think about Genesis 5 and 2, there's all of these creation stories, right, about what a woman's proper place is. Yeah. In reality, the reason we don't hear Genesis 5 and 2 preached often is that Genesis 5 and 2 says, and in the beginning created he him, male and female created he them, and blessed them in the day when they were created, and called their name Adam in the day of their creation. Well, how come we don't hear that preached? We don't, because if we talk about the manifestations of God, male and female, as we're gendering it, what God was basically saying to us is, I am the womb and the seed. And you need both to recreate. There are times, however, when one edges out the other. And I'm so grateful my sister is here in terms of economics. So right now, black women are the most highly educated in the whole country. Black women hold more degrees than anybody else in the country. And it was only the early 1900s that we started doing our thing. Okay, so what was unique about us? And fundamentally, I believe part of it is intrinsically we're communal. Talking about the, can I get some sugar, right? What we've moved away from is so much of the communal ways we know of being, definitely as black women. But I want to suggest, as women in general, if you ever want to raise up a nation or a people, what you do is you invest in the women. Well, why do we invest in the women? Well, we invest in the women because, number one, we're communal, so we know how to stretch. Number two, there is something about our faith. There is a way, and this takes nothing against anybody that's male identified in the room. I'm not talking about that, but we're talking about saving ourselves. We got to talk about how we use and reimagine our resources. Black women are one of our most major resources. The question is, what do we now do with that? We have created more businesses since 2000 than any other class of people. You all may not know that, right? Well, what does that mean? What it means is there is a faith that is grounded in black women. There is a wiring that is designed for reproduction of whatever we get. Yeah, it is. So we talk about reproduction, thinking of uteral production and reproduction. I want to suggest that's limited thinking. I believe that we're in the midst of a massive birthing process, and one that is going to have things emerge that we have not seen before, and we haven't seen it because it's locked up in many of our minds and spirits. We have I'm going to say this last, we have a great amount of courage. What we have less of is self-esteem. Amen, somebody. It's Sunday, and I'm not asking forgiveness, okay? So I want to let that sit. Lots of courage, limited self-assurance.
Yeah. Okay. Listen. Do you know what I'm saying? All of y'all. See why this is the panel? All right? Okay. So I'm gonna give each of you a direct question though, because that was just us helping the audience to understand your framing around your particular intersection. And Jermaine, I want to come back to you for a second first, right? So when we think about, I think Bishop Rawls alluded to this, you also alluded to this too when thinking about the power of culture in this moment and how the feminine energy is arising, and that means if that is rising, then patriarchy must be falling, right? Y'all do know what patriarchy is, right? Okay. And we do know that that's not good shit, right? It's not good at all. It's really horrible, right? But I find that the way that we're seeing these systems like patriarchy and homophobia and all of that, we are seeing it play out in culture in really interesting ways too, right? And so I want to point your question a little bit more towards, right, what is possible when you think about your artivism angle and the way that you approach your work? What is possible when we move more people to the center of social change versus being committed to being complicit with these systems that are destroying us? Because we've seen it happen, right? We just released our Black Men's Roundtable. Did folks see that?
Did they see it? Really? Did they see
No,
it?
seriously. So we did a roundtable called Black Men Trust Black Women, and it was our opportunity of thinking about how do we bring men into this conversation, but also how do we get men to start to talk about how harmful patriarchy is. And so what we learned in that room was that most of them don't even know that they're in it. They're just upholding it, right? And when we think about music, when we think about all forms of art and the ways in which these systems of oppression have just lied dormant in them, we're in a moment where that could actually be shifted. And so I'm curious from your perspective as a leader in thinking about those new strategies and the new visions for that, what's possible and what needs to shift in order for that to no longer be our reality?
Thank you, because this has been the question that's been on my mind. Like I wake up thinking about this, not only as a leader in community, but as a dad. You know, I have two boys. I have an 18-year-old and an 11-year-old. And I have an interesting dichotomy because I'm a gay dad, you know. So I have boys who, your question is so layered. I got to peel it back a little bit.
I love a layered question.
I do too. So just peeling it back, and Reia probably can speak to this a lot more articulately than I can, but I was reading the stats on young men, that the average young man, teenager to like mid-20s, has not even been on a date. They don't ask girls on dates anymore. That the average young man, if I can be explicit, sits home, jacks off, and plays video games, and is content. Wow. Has no social life. Some of you young women know what I'm talking about. And when they do take you out, they don't have any conversation. They have no social skills. They don't know how to court. They have no game. They have no money. So that makes them vulnerable to what you were talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Religious zealots. Because what they really, really want is belongingness. That's what they want. And power. Thank you. Because that's I don't know how to explain it. That is a male, I don't want to say it's always a quality, but it's a male desire, a natural one, that we define ourselves by our power. So that, and the social conditioning, get me right. But what I also know is they want belongingness, because that's a hierarchy need that we all need and they want. And so if there's a religious zealot out there or a religion or white nationalist, like I got so scared when my son started ordering that Jesus apparel on Shein. You should be happy your son wants to wear a John 3:16 shirt. I was like, what the fuck? Because I wanted to know what that meant, if he was being indoctrinated. And to some degree he is. He is, because on his algorithm, he's seeing stuff that I'm not seeing. And it is intentional. Because you know who was using forces and resources to get to our boys. Specifically. And so think about that. Think about that. So you got like that layer and that foundational patriarchy that has been there, but you got this other tool where they're using the internet to get our boys early and speaking to them when they're in their rooms and the door is closed and you're asleep. That scares the hell out of me, Monica.
That's very real. That's very real. And our opposition did a really good job of creating, they call the manospheres, they call it, and the boys sphere, right? Like they've been very
they've
intentional.
created a clique for them.
They did.
These boys who ain't getting no ass, they ain't getting no pussy, they don't got no money, they don't have no job, but they got the manosphere. They got other men patting them on the back and saying, yo nerdy broke ass, bruh.
I was gonna say, and not only that, but they are being conditioned that they are entitled to these things and that they deserve these
Inherently
things
because they're a man.
because they're a man.
Some bullshit.
Yeah, and then I mean, but on the other hand too, you have young women who are also being conditioned as well to accept what is available and given. Dating culture these days is so weird. Like how deeply enmeshed and invested these young folks get with each other, and how deeply entangled they get. But there's such a lack of individuality and autonomy, and that while we talk about the importance of community building, I do think it's important to have conversations around boundaries.
Yes.
And boundaries is like the dirty word in these relationships. There just are none.
Yeah.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I'm from the Caribbean. By the way, this space here, y'all like this space?
It's
Visual Performing
amazing.
Arts Center. This is run by a Afro-Caribbean couple, Joanne and Roger.
We're so grateful for them.
Joanne and Arthur Rogers. Y'all here? Wave your hand in the air like you just don't care if you're here. But I'm also from the Caribbean. I'm Bahamas, and it's true about us. We keep a lot of jobs. We have a lot of jobs. So I'm very busy, right? I have learned I gotta keep. I fuck men, but I don't fuck with men.
That's going to be a great clip. It's going to be amazing.
Not like
Way to own the libs.
not
So amazing.
not in my business. Like like you my bro, but like you can't be on my team
I hear that.
because I can't trust my bros. My team is women. My confidants are women, and it's not because I'm gay. Because I'm gay, but I'm not really like the gays.
This is getting better and better.
I'm a different kind of gay. I don't like none of the gay
It's getting
shit.
better and better.
I'm a lover of men, and that's the only gay shit I like. So I don't even fit in gay culture.
It's getting better and better. It's
I'm
so cool.
sorry.
I'm
a Sagittarius. We.
All the Sagittarius just went up. They're like,
Yeah. What the
No,
hell
no,
this
no,
mean?
but
What does this mean? What the
No,
hell?
but Jermaine, no, seriously, where you are is making a lot of sense.
Keep women around me. That's why I'm great.
Listen, hey. But so what's interesting about that too is, and this is why I always love these conversations on the road to essence, because we get to the essence of a thing, right? Like every conversation goes this way, and it's so much fun. Are y'all having a good time? Okay, because we're going to let y'all have some questions too, okay? All right, because this is about community. But Reia, you had came in on the last part, and I was actually going to come to you next, specifically about your work around maternal mental health, but just mental health and awareness. And you talked about boundary setting, and like, what is it going to really take for us to truly have the ability to have bodily autonomy? And I think that where you were going on that around the boundaries and understanding and the social conditionings, even of what you were just talking about with Jermaine, those were important pieces of that. So again, as we are seeing the things coming down the pike, right, on the social medias, Black women are now over 300,000 of us don't have no jobs. The stress levels are through the roof. We don't have access to health care. Our children are experiencing all kinds of things like Jermaine was just talking about. Like, there are so many things put on top of all of us, right? And that has to have a weathering effect. And so what does it look like? What is it going to take, right? Because we want to be able to get to liberation whole. I know I want to get to liberation whole. What is it going to take for us to do that? And what do we need to be taking into account now in this moment that we're in that's going to help us build those pathways to get there?
Yeah, I love that. A lot of the people that I work with in my practice are high-powered, high-performing, professional Black women. And if that sounds like you probably know what I'm going to say. Like, we are the fixers, we are the tacticians, we are the timekeepers, we're the organizers, we're all the things to all the people, and we're often praised for being those people, that you are so strong, you are so resilient, oh my gosh, we wouldn't have been able to do this without you, and you're all the beautiful things. But a lot of times what we're overlooking is fracture. We're overlooking exhaustion. I see a lot of nodding heads. We're overlooking the quiet falling apart and the breaking down that you do behind closed doors, because we're constantly trying to maintain this image and this role that we've been inserted in, and we've been groomed like that. Let's just be honest.
That's very real.
You know, you're such a great helper, you know? And a lot of people take these sort of social identities and embody those things to their own destruction. And so a lot of people that I see in my practice are the folks who are breaking down quietly while still trying to maintain their powerful roles, because we Black women don't have the luxury of rest. Right? Black women don't have the luxury of vacation. And when you start to really peel back intersections, that you might be making six figures, you might have access to resources on paper, but when you consider grief, when you consider lack of support, like how many professionals do we have in here who's doing it on their own? They don't have a partner. They don't have family who have the means or the capacity to support them. Who are the people that your strong, empowered, and brilliant friend can go to for support if you're always going to them for support, right? So I think that it's really important to recognize that if care is centered on relying on the people who are constantly overworked, who are the ones who are always showing up, then that in itself is unsustainable. We have to create systems where people can find entry points and to meet people where they're at, like you were talking about, but to also recognize that proper care has to not only be available, but it has to be accessible. And whenever there's barriers to accessing support, that's the questions we have to start to ask. Why aren't people, using this resource that's available? Right? Why aren't people showing better health outcomes? Why aren't the maternal mortality rates improving? Why aren't more people accessing mental health care? Why aren't more people thriving in our communities? And what are the systems that are fostering that? Like, I think those questions are important.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I have a question for you, Bishop Rawls, and I have one for you, Neah'Marie, and one for you, Aaliyah, and I want to make sure we get some questions from this audience before we get ready to turn up. But, because, all things are important, right? Like, we have to do it. It's intersections, you know what I'm saying? But Bishop Rawls, you gave us a sermon to start off the morning with, which I had no doubt in my mind that you wouldn't. But you laid out so many things in that, right? And so I want to pull back one of the layers that you had in your beginning conversation about this role of gender in this moment, right? Like, it's such a fascinating time that we're in, the ways that gender is being used as a weapon specifically, and they're undergirding it in the faith space, right, as kind of like their driver for how they are trying to push this gender divide, so to speak. So when we think about the fight that we're now seeing around trans kids and sports, what? Why is this a thing, right? Why are trans people in Kansas having their license taken away from them? They can't even drive. Do y'all know that's happening? If you identify as a trans person in Kansas, you no longer have an identification card. They have taken your license. That's a real thing, right? Things like this are happening all over the place, right? Because it's all about this gender. You got to be this or this. And if anything else goes outside of this binary that they've set up for us because it keeps us in this level of control, then you have to be deemed as wrong, right? As bad, as criminal, as punishable. So how are these two things, like this gender kind of challenge, to say that the best way that we're in, how do you see that undergirded by this faith being a thing, right? But what is it going to take for us to like rip that apart, right? And to really see us all as the human beings that we are?
That's a great question. What I'll say quickly, because obviously, that's very complex. But again, I'm going to have to go back to my sister in economics. If you really want to understand this American experiment, the best way to understand it, to your point, Monica, and the reason I'm going to address gender, but it's bigger than gender because it'll be another thing, right? So I want to talk bigger than the thing that's the thing today, right? Because there was always a thing, whether it was the woman thing or it was the black thing or it was the whatever the thing, there will always be a thing. What's important to understand if you're talking about dismantling something is I have to understand what I'm dealing with. So most of what we've been talking about are the distractions, okay? When we were founded, part of how we became such a great nation in such a relatively short period of time. When we talk about Africa, thousands of years. When we talk about Asia, thousands. We talk about all these places, and we are 250 years old. How did we get to control the world? Well, we got to control it through a system.
That's it.
The capitalist system, by design, has to have bodies to feed it.
That's it.
All right? You need a feeder. How do we get those bodies? Well, in the beginning, we got them because we landed on Native Americans. So we were able to get things as we stole their bodies and their land.
Yes.
Okay, so that's one. Then we move now. We've got land, and we know that this land can now grow some things that we're not familiar with. How do I deal with Charleston, South Carolina?
Right.
How do I know how to grow rice? I don't know, right? But these African women who braided rice seeds in their hair in locks and cornrows, who did that because what she knew, that's just going back to my point of the feminine manifestations of God, what she knew was wherever the hell we going, we got to eat.
We're going to have to eat.
Seriously, right?
That's right.
And so if we understand that she came with those skills, and then they understood we need bodies who can continue to keep feeding the machine. We know that there's this continent that has bodies that are used to working in heat and in the conditions that are our cash crops, right? Yeah. So when we think about all of these things, I've got to keep bodies feeding the system. So where else am I going to get bodies? I need more bodies now because these bodies, they done got uppity and they don't want to work in the field no more. All right? They done gone north and to these other places. So now I've got Mexican bodies and Latin American bodies. But now what I have to do is I've got to control those bodies so that they can continue to feed. Well, how else am I going to do that? I'm going to do it based on gender because I need these women to get under control.
Yeah.
Lastly, I'm going to say this. The reason 350,000 black women got removed from the government roles had very little to do with their blackness and everything to do with the massive transfer of wealth that was about to happen. So if you pull them out, right, then the wealth doesn't flow the same way. I need bodies, which is why I need black male bodies. Well, why do I need their bodies? They're hard to control, but I can incarcerate them, and I'm going to make money off of that black body in every possible way. I'm going to make it on the phone calls when they're in jail. I'm going to make money at every point of the prison industrial complex. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make y'all sick. I'm going to flood your neighborhoods with sugars and with high carbohydrates. And I'm going to do it in such a way that you become dependent on me, the system, for your care. I now have to make you more vulnerable because y'all done got too strong. Hear me. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to take as many supports away as possible because I need what? Bodies. That's never going to change under a capitalist system. What can change very quickly is us owning how much we got in a very short period of time. We got a lot of stuff. finding ways of coming together, which is why they're trying to peel our black boys away, which is why when I was coming up in the welfare system, a black man couldn't be in the house if the woman was getting welfare. All of these things, by design, we are living within that system. What if we dare to take the stuff that we know would make life better, pool our resources, begin to think more strategically, like a girl. I preached a sermon not long ago talking about fight like a girl. You don't want to fight a girl when she's fighting like a girl. It makes no sense, right? We got windmills and things going. But if it's a black woman, we also prepared, because what do? Vaseline on the face. What about this? Earrings off. What about my hair? Pull it back. Okay, so we know how to fight.
We know how.
Now's the time for us to go and act like we know and begin being bold and do new things that the world hasn't seen yet.
I was about to come to you, but I'm gonna let you go ahead and I don't have to prep you. I'm gonna let you, because the question was, because the economics is the thing, right? It really is the thing, and we gotta talk about that in a very real way with black folks, because to your point, Bishop Rawls, what does it look like for us to create a community in which we are actually all working together, building our resources together, pooling our monies together, building out our systems into, and it's not that we haven't done it before, right? And so GBEF, that's the shorthand for it, but Global Black Economic Forum, y'all have been in these questions for decades at this point now, right? So what do we got to do, Aaliyah?
I work in the future of work almost exclusively because I run our leadership development organization. And Bishop Rawls, you have been planting so many seeds today. I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to talk to you later. But a couple of things. So we need a strategy. The most recent numbers that I heard, there are over 600,000 black women out of the workplace. And that goes back to, we saw that number in 2020, so we've been here before. Just like we've been here with all of these things before. We've been through liberation before in some ways, right? We didn't get to the promised land, but we've got some blueprints that we can go back and follow. Yeah. We've got some blueprints here too, because before we came to before the transatlantic slave trade, Africa had a very well-developed economic system. So there were hat makers, there were fisher people, there were boat makers. We did not come here as people who were just running around the jungle that were completely uncivilized. That is not true, okay? So entrepreneurship is in our blood, it's our roots. What's going on right now that I think is really important for us to take advantage of is what's called the silver tsunami. How many of you have heard that term? So we got one person. So the silver tsunami, there are $10 billion in business value that are going to be basically, there's no opportunity for exchange. Like people, if I have a business and I'm a baby boomer, my family may not want that business. So that business really does need to be sold because these are profitable businesses. About 75% of them are profitable. Well, there are 600,000 qualified black women who need jobs. Not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur, but you could buy a business that you could then run. Right. Now, people say, well, I don't have any money to buy a business. I've heard that SBA is getting rid of, small and disadvantaged businesses. You can't have a minority business anymore. Well, that's all by design. The Federal Reserve, actually still has programs for small businesses to get loans, to reassign debt, et cetera, but we don't get the knowledge. Part of our liberation is about us getting the proper information, and we don't do that. We are in society, we're part of an algorithm that we keep getting the same information over and over again, and it's not going to help us get out of where we are. Yeah. We have to have conversations like this. We have to reach out to each other. We cannot gatekeep. There is enough for all of us. I just said there's $10 billion in businesses that are really available. And how do we get those businesses? Federal government still has loans that we can access. There are many different ways that there's seller financing, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to encourage us all to think about our entrepreneurial roots. And we don't have to be an entrepreneur that starts from the ground. We can actually buy something. We can come together and say, I want to join hands with you. You're really great at accounting. I want to join hands with you. You can coach our team because you're good at mental health. I want to get with you because you are just a wonderful, interesting person, the ultimate hype man. Y'all said you used to go out all the time. I can see him being the best hype man ever. Ever.
A time was had.
Ever.
A time was had.
And also creativity. He's a creative. You need a board to help you to be successful. Right. So I think we have to get out of this, I can't do it on my own, which we can't. We should rely upon each other differently. But there's opportunities out there. There are over 31 states who have offices that will help you buy businesses. They're called employee-owned businesses. 31 states have that service, but we don't have the information.
Which is why we do these conversations in all the cities that we can to get people this information. Y'all getting some good information? You taking notes? Okay. Nia, I want you to round us out before we give just a few moments to any questions that may have come up for folks. Because I think ending with you as a young person who has this power and this drive to be in this work and in this liberation work unapologetically right now. And there are young people out here and folks who are connected to young people who may be asking, how do you start? What do I do? I don't know how to even think about advocating for an issue. What would be your advice to young people or just new people wanting to enter in to this work? What would be your advice for them on how to do that and why it's important for them to do that in this moment?
So my advice would be, frankly, I worked mostly in IT, and I love data, I love thinking, but it was very white. It was very white men and old, and it was not the space that I wanted to be in. And so what I did was I researched, and I also talked to people in my community, like, you know, what nonprofits do you know about, or, you know, what are people doing that supports our community directly across the street? They are serving unhoused people. So it's all around you. There's lots of access. If you want to financially commit to things, that's awesome. But also, it's time and presence and conversation. Yeah. You know, and going back to community, that many times is so much more powerful than just giving people money and leaving them alone. Asking people, but also Google. Yeah. I know y'all be Googling. I know y'all be like,
I'm not mad.
How long do I boil? Blah, 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 blah.
We just asked this question the other day. Mm-hmm. Sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're fine. Or like, how do I crochet my hair? Or TikTok. I look at TikTok as like a visual library. You know, you can almost look up anything, no matter how unique it is, and usually find it. And I think TikTok is great because you hear someone speaking to you. They can visually show you what they're talking about, and it is thorough, and you will find it very, very local, and be like, hold on, I know that's down the street, you know. So I would definitely do that. So Google, TikTok, as well as just asking people in your community, your church, and any extracurricular hobbies you do, you know. And sometimes just in conversation, you find out what other people do, like within their community. So. And then I think that is extremely important for us to do. Now, I will say, everybody is not an activist. Everybody is not an organizer, you know, and you don't have to feel obligated to be that. But it is important to do something within your community that's within your capacity, because there is someone out there who maybe your story can impact them, you know, whether it's like the things you've been through or the things that you've learned. And it's also important because right now, going back to Can I have a cup of sugar? I used to live off the plaza on Glenview Court, and I remember our neighbors used to always ask for sugar. And we ended up becoming the best of friends. At first, my mom was like, dang, she ain't never got no sugar, you know. But, but we ended up becoming the best of friends and still friends till this day. Kenya. And I just think that's important, really leaning on that. And see, what we tend to do is we tend to wait until we have to do it. We tend to wait until we have to create a community garden, or we have to walk our children to these schools because of Border Patrol and ICE and things of that sort. We need to be organizing now. We need to be having these conversations in the basements. We need to be having these conversations in person. Everything does not have to be posted on social media. As a millennial, I will say that for sure. But yeah, it's extremely important to show up in your community so that when people see you at the store, they know who you are. They know that you are a safe space.
That's right.
Because we all need a bit more safe spaces and love and grace. So.
Absolutely. Come on, organizer. So we should be talking to our people. We should be knowing who our people is and are. And we should use the tools that we have, like the social medias and things, and being mindful, because, AI is wild. But, being as mindful as we can in that way and using all the tools in the toolbox. But ultimately, it's about being able to make those one-on-one connections with folks and to be intentional about that. I can dig it. My team is telling me I'm over, right? Oh, look at me. Okay, cool. Thank you, Asia. All right, so y'all give a round of applause to this amazing panel. We are having these conversations in 5 different cities across the country. Charlotte started us off number 1. Y'all are number 1. We will be going to Brooklyn, New York next week. Will we then be going, right? Brooklyn is always in the building. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be in Iceland, okay? And somebody's like, Brooklyn! It's wild. It's wild. But we will be in Brooklyn next week, and then we will be in Detroit. So if you got homies in Detroit at the beginning of May, and then we will be in Los Angeles, California in June, and we will round out with Juneteenth in Houston, Texas before we make our way to New Orleans. So if you know people in these places, please let them know how much you enjoy this and to tell them to come out and be a part of the same experience. We now want to give an opportunity for just a couple of questions. Maybe if we have 2 very burning questions, we can bring them to the front, and Asia is going to take one of these microphones to help us get those questions out. Just one? We gotta go down? We gotta end now? We have one question. Okay, thank you, Fatima. We can do one burning question. They tell me what to do. I really don't run anything. I want y'all to know that. Oh, yes, we do have on YouTube. So our SisterSong YouTube channel, that's where you can also watch our Black Men Trust Black Women Roundtable if you haven't seen that. We have many amazing webinars, sessions, things that we've done all on our YouTube channel. Very educational, very fun. Please go check that out. Thank you for that question. And we have one more question here. Where you at? I can't see. Okay. You just have to start talking because I can't see. The light too bright. Hey. Mic check.
It's red. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, there we go. Perfect. Thank you. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you.
So my name is Lauren. My question is kind of similar to what you just asked, but it's more specific.
Okay.
So I graduated from my graduate program almost 2 years ago, and right now I am working towards being fully licensed, and I'm very passionate about maternal health, specifically Black maternal health.
Yes.
But being here has been challenging to find my footing into that space. I've tried PSI, PSI, the North Carolina chapter,
Okay.
private practices, but there's not a lot here, so they're overworked, so they're really busy, and so it's been difficult for me. So I want to know if there's any advice that you give for myself or anyone else that's in that space that can try to find their footing here in Charlotte.
Absolutely. Number one, I want you to hook up with this one right here. And I know that Reia can give you many, many different resources on that. And so y'all please make sure you connect with each other after this so you can get those resources. Also, our Birth Justice Care Fund, we have members in Charlotte as well, and these are practitioners, these are doulas, these are midwives, lactation consultants, folks who are actually doing the work in the city too, so we can make sure we give you access to those folks to make your community as big and broad as we can. But this is number one right here. Please come to Reia Chapman to get all things on that. You all, the day is not over. We do have to move because there's some people in there that want to, bring their talent to the stage. But we don't want you all to leave here and not connect with these amazing panelists. So they will be out in the audience. Please connect with them. Get to know their work, their organizations. Please make sure you're supporting them. Also, at the end of the performances, I'll tell you all about our national Let's Talk About Sex conference. It is the largest sexual and reproductive justice conference in the country. And this year, we are building out something even bigger. You want to know about that? We'll also tell you about our complete work essence, and Nia will tell us about the folk tour. What's up? I can't. Is that my mama can ask a question? Yes. Absolutely.
I have a question I want to ask, but I'm not going to. I just want to say thank you, Charlotte, for coming out this afternoon and listening to this lady, my daughter. We're everywhere. She's everywhere. I want you to know, Reia, and what's his?
Jermaine.
Jermaine, Pastor. I've been knowing these people for over 20 years here in Charlotte, and they have always been and done remarkable work. So the other two I don't know, but please, if you have any questions or need help, these are the ones that you can come to because I know they will help you. I know they will. And Pastor, I haven't heard you in a long time, but I see you still got it. Okay? You still got it.
Y'all, that's my mama. Y'all hear me? That is my mama. Okay? Let me tell you. All right, I'm going to get these panelists up off this thing because
Monica,
we got to. What's
can
up?
I say one quick thing?
Absolutely.
I was remiss
Yes.
in a response that I gave, and I haven't been able to sit.
That's right.
still
Get
with
it off your system.
But I did not respond properly to the trans question.
Okay.
That community is being attacked in ways
Absolutely.
that are absolutely ridiculous.
Yes.
And I knew our time was limited, so I answered the
Sure.
question broadly. But I do want to say that any trans folk that you all see, even when we're talking about reproductive justice, that is also a trans issue.
Absolutely.
And we're not talking about it. I know several people now who are pregnant and trans male identified. So I hope that as we're having these conversations, we're understanding that we're learning so much every day about gender and about the ways to discuss it and talk about it. And our trans, male siblings are also part of this conversation.
100%.
And so I just wanted to add that in addition to the fact that there's a whole lot of ways to reproduce. So
many. Thank you. And I'm so glad that you said that more explicitly. And let me tell you something about SisterSong and about this movement of reproductive justice. We understand it's going to take all of us to get free. And it's going to take all of us understanding that even if you don't understand, even if it's not something that you've been able to, when I started doing this work, first of all, when I came out in this city, stepping into this world, it's like, what do you mean you gay? That's stupid. I went through a lot with that, y'all. It was wild, right? And so things have changed. And then also doing this work around reproductive justice and having to have conversations with people about abortion, right? And sex and sexuality. All the things that we are told are taboo that we don't talk about are the things I talk about every single day. I'm talking about vaginas and penises and things every day, right? And it's important for us to do so because I'm telling you all, if I had the time to tell you about the call that I know was put on my life to be in this work and to do this in this time, it is real, right? Just because of my own experiences. But whether you understand it or not, whether it's something that you need more education on or not, what we all have to understand is that in order for us to be able to be free in this world, it requires us to all be able to live in the world free from harm and shame and criminalization and violence. Nobody deserves to be hurt because of who they are. No one's body deserves to be legislated because you feel like you have to make a decision. That is absolutely wrong. So that is why we do this. That's why we're going to keep doing this. And what's up? I'm with you. Okay, yay.
But because when we talk about trust Black women, like I see like some uncomfortable shifts here,
Hell
and
yeah.
I recognize that a Black woman might be the person that hurt you, right? And
on.
that we were oftentimes told growing up that like what stays in my house is our house business. Don't be out here telling your business. But like Monica is saying something so powerful here, that the way that we get free is in community with each other.
Come on.
And so you might not be able to talk to the Black women in your house, but find another house with some Black women and talk to her.
Come on. Y'all getting me stirred up. It's Sunday, and we gonna give it in a whole other kind of way. Give it up one more time for these amazing panelists. Thank you, Bishop Rawls. Thank you, Neah'Marie. Thank you, Jermaine. Thank you, Reia. Thank you, Aaliyah. We're going to change the stage over because we got another thing popping.